In the 1960s, Charles Eisenman and his German Shepherd London were Hollywood stars. London had performed in movies and the television series The Littlest Hobo, executing stunts that seemed to require a near-human level of intellect. To prove the extent of London's abilities, Eisenman brought him to a local television station for a live broadcast. He claimed his dog had mastered a vocabulary of about 400 words. A skeptic in the audience challenged Eisenman to try a command in Spanish. Someone called out, "Cierra la puerta." Eisenman turned to the dog and repeated the phrase. London paused, walked directly to a partially open door across the stage, reached out his paw and pushed it shut. The demonstration continued. Someone asked the dog to identify a red object. London walked over and pointed his nose at a red coffee mug. When asked for blue, he indicated a blue chair, and for yellow, a yellow curtain. The studio audience erupted in applause. To anyone watching, the evidence was clear. Eisenman had successfully taught his dog to comprehend language at the level of an 8-year-old child. But any word in a foreign language requires a direct translation before it carries meaning. Since neither Eisenman nor London knew Spanish, and London had never been taught the word porta, he shouldn't have known what to do. This diagram compares the full color spectrum of human vision against a dog's dichromatic vision. Because dogs evolved to hunt primarily at dawn and dusk, their eyes lack the specific cone cells needed to process a wide array of colors, restricting them mostly to shades of gray, green, and muddy brown reds. Look at what happens to blue and yellow on the dog side of the chart. They merge into indistinguishable shades. London physically lacked the retinal hardware required to tell the blue chair from the yellow curtain. The dog could not see the colors he was identifying, and he had no prior knowledge of the Spanish vocabulary he was obeying. The correct answers were happening on camera, but human-like language comprehension was biologically ruled out. Something else had to be directing the dog's movements. Decades earlier, Professor C.J. Warden tested animal cognition at Columbia University, approaching these kinds of claims with rigorous academic skepticism. He brought in a German Shepherd named Fellow. Much like London, Fellow's owner claimed the dog understood roughly 400 distinct English words. Warden placed the owner behind a physical screen. The owner would issue commands from behind this barrier, completely isolating Fellow's hearing from his vision. The results split cleanly in half. Fellow still flawlessly obeyed basic action words like sit or stop, but when given commands that required him to locate a specific object or move to a specific part of the room, the dog failed. Hearing the word was insufficient for navigation. To execute his massive vocabulary, Fellow needed to see the person speaking. Warden realized that complex commands contain two distinct parts. There is the verbal action, what the dog needs to do, and the spatial target, where the dog needs to do it. To test how Fellow was finding those spatial targets, Warden designed a deception test. He told the owner to give the command, "Go to the door," but instructed him to lock his eyes intensely on a table in the middle of the room. Fellow heard the word door, but he walked straight to the table. Psychologists had documented this before. In the early 1900s, a horse named Clever Hans appeared to perform complex mathematics. Researchers eventually proved the horse was actually watching the audience, waiting for the unconscious tension in their bodies to relax the exact moment his hoof tapped the correct answer. Animals possess a hyper-tuned ability to read microscopic physical tells. A slight shift in weight or a fleeting gaze dictates their actions, overriding the words being spoken. We can apply Warden's findings directly back to the live television studio to see exactly how Charles Eisenman and his dog London performed their tricks. When the Spanish command was given, Eisenman looked at the specific door he wanted shut. The micro-movement of his eyes darting across the stage happened right before he finished saying, "Cerrar la puerta." The same sequence solved the color trick. When asking for the red mug, Eisenman naturally looked at the table next to him. London simply walked to the table and pointed his nose at the edge. The audience assumed he was indicating the mug, but he was just targeting the area his owner had focused on. Dogs take the visual trajectory of our gaze, follow it to an object, and then use the tone of our voice to guess which action we want them to perform once they get there. London was neither a linguistic prodigy nor a conscious fraud. He was an elite observer of human body language, extracting his cues from the subtle, subconscious movements his owner didn't even realize he was making. This misinterpretation stems from anthropocentrism. Humans prioritize spoken language above everything else, and we naturally assume it holds the same primary importance for the rest of the animal kingdom. This illustration shows how that bias creates a blind spot. We think we are projecting complex nouns and verbs into our dog's mind, when in reality, the dog is mapping the physical geometry of our bodies. The words "fetch the red ball" act only as an alert system. The sound tells the dog an action is required, but our posture, the angle of our head, and the direction of our eyes provide the actual map to the target. When a dog seems stubborn or confused by a spoken command, it rarely points to a lack of intellect. Usually, they are receiving conflicting data because our verbal instruction doesn't match our physical signaling. We aren't having conversations with our pets. Without realizing it, our bodies are silently puppeteering them.